Hello, I'm Anna Delaney with ISMG. I'm very pleased to be joined by Dave Merkel, CEO and co-founder of Expel. Great to see you, Dave.
Hey Anna, how are you?
Very well. So you have just released an annual threat report.
We did.
Any takeaways you could share with us?
Probably the most interesting one. So we see attack trends and patterns kind of come and go. And what we see a lot of focus on with attackers right now is identity. So going after users and their identity, their credentials, their mechanism for authenticating. And I think that's largely due to there's just so many assets that continue to be stored in the cloud infrastructure, applications, and it's just a really fruitful target to go after. And there's just a lot of different kinds of things you can do with a credential when you steal it from someone working at a large enterprise. It gives you kind of keys to the kingdom. And so that was a really interesting development. We've seen years of ransomware, not that we don't see that now, it's just that's not in vogue, if you will. And so just a lot of that is going on. And that's an interesting challenge because identity is a little bit harder to deal with as a defender. If you're dealing with someone going after, say, your laptop, right? Like there's a lot there. You can put a lot of security instrumentation on it. If the attacker is messing around, they leave a lot of footprints. There's just a lot there to grab onto. An identity is much more ephemeral. It's just not the same level of signal for a security practitioner to go after. And so it can create some challenges for certain organizations.
Can you expand on some of those challenges?
Well, first is, do you have good identity management? Many organizations do not. Do you have a central source of truth? Do you have a kind of a single sign-on, like single credential environment, or is it fragmented? Do you have good multi-factor authentication? And then do you have good logging and instrumentation, all the various applications and infrastructure where that identity is used? It's just, you can't just deploy like a firewall or an endpoint agent and be sure to get all the signal that you need. And so you've got to be much more on your game in terms of managing your information assets to really provide a defender, whether it's your team or someone like Expel, the stuff that we need to really help protect you. And
you mentioned ransomware. Elaborate on what security leaders are the troubles they're facing in terms of defense.
Yeah, so ransomware is still a thing. We still see it. It didn't go away. However, if we go back a few years, it was really bad, like especially kind of around COVID times. We saw just a massive spike. We saw a lot of organizations not well prepared. We saw cyber insurance providers not well prepared to pay the claims. And I think especially that last part, a lot of organizations got religion, if you will, and they did some of the things that you need to do that are not glamorous, but are more effective for protecting you, like just good hygiene, good backup management, the ability to restore from those backups, because you can have a backup all day long. If you can't get it back into whatever information system that needs it and make it operational, it's just ones and zeros sitting on a disk. It's not helpful. You also saw companies like Rubrik, for example, that really focuses on helping customers deal with that problem. So we've seen organizations get better at dealing with that. Attackers haven't gone away, but again, we see this rise in prevalence and identity. They're going where perhaps now that hygiene and diligence and infrastructure is not as mature because that's where the opportunity is.
How is the geopolitical landscape impacting the threat landscape? All the activity there?
Well, we'll say challenging. I would say things started getting really spicy when we saw the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. All of a sudden, if you're a US business interest with any sort of Russian ties, maybe you do business with a Russian JV or what have you, all of a sudden you're potentially a really red hot nation state target if you're in the US. And now carry forward to today, we've seen nothing but an escalation of kind of worldwide turmoil, whether you're talking Hamas versus Israel, Hezbollah versus Israel, Iran versus Israel and the US. Obviously, the Russian situation continues. China and Taiwan issues, just all of these things continue to escalate. And anytime that's happening, you are going to see potential increases in nation state activity. And that's tough, because if you're an organization here in the US, it's not like the military or government can sit in between you and the attacks that are going to come out of Russia or China or wherever, Iran, North Korea. You're kind of on your own on the front line. And so those increases in tensions increase risk for businesses in a way that's just not the same in the physical domain. Like a Russian tank is not coming up and down, kind of interesting to see, in front of Moscow, but not a good thing. That's not happening. But, couldn't Russia show up on your doorstep as, you're a bank in the Midwest thinking, surely no one will attack me from a nation state? Potentially very, very, very wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, what specific challenges are organizations facing when it comes to those geopolitical threats?
Well, the thing that becomes scary is, if you are targeted by a nation state, you can't win, you can't outspend them. You have to be as diligent as you possibly can and nimble, and then be ready to deal with a situation if it pops up and potentially have to recover because there's a high likelihood of an attack being successful. Again, because you are talking about a small private organization, small by nation state standards, and the assets of a country being potentially pointed at you.
So we're at RSAC. What are you hearing on the show floor? What's the buzz of the day?
Nothing but AI all the time if you're talking about the vendors. Like I think we should have an RSA rule that every time someone says AI, you have to take a shot. Like that would be hilarious to watch. We could set up on, on the balcony there and just kind of watch.
Lying around.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, there is a lot out there from vendors and, AI and how it's being utilized in products and what have you. And that's cool. I mean, I'm glad everybody's innovating and trying to utilize the technology. But we have a really bad habit in the security industry as vendors of grabbing the latest buzzword, everybody using it. Like, anybody remember the year of big data? Like, what does it even mean? And that's going on right now. So I think the challenge to would-be buyers is really understanding, okay, you say AI, who cares? AI is a how. How are you accomplishing an outcome? What is the outcome? And then if you're saying AI, that's a really generic term. What do you mean? Do you mean machine learning? Do you mean large language models? There's a whole host of issues depending on what the specifics are. And I think it falls to buyers to be really aggressive in asking hard questions and demanding details.
What are the questions they should be asking then?
Well, I mean, those ones I just mentioned to start with. What's the outcome? And then you said you're using AI to generate the outcome. Exactly how? So take away the generic term. Is it ML? Is it an LLM? If it's an LLM, okay, well, which one? Is it yours? Did you make it? Are you using, an open platform? Are you using something like OpenAI? Or are you using, Claude, something from Anthropic, whatever it might be? And then you want to think about, okay, well, if you're using that, where's the data come from that you're using to make it behave the way we want it to behave? And if it's my data, what are you doing with it? And if I tell you to delete it, can you? Or is something getting kind of sucked up into sort of larger data training sets that they don't have the ability to disambiguate, remove? All these questions, I think, are really important. It's not that any particular answer is bad. The bad answer is you don't know. Because then you have no agency. You can't calculate your risk. You can't mitigate it. You're just kind of stuck with whatever they give you. And so you need to really ask for specifics to figure out, will this product actually work, number one, and produce an outcome you actually care about? And then does it create any new risk that you didn't have before? And do you want to accept that risk?
No, excellent. So how do you think the emergence of AI is impacting the cybersecurity workforce?
Well, let's see here. So obviously it's definitely, there's great potential for it to enable defenders, right? Because it's not going to magically take someone's job overnight in the security industry, but it can take a person and make them scale better, be stronger, be faster. Of course, attackers are certainly doing the same thing. So there's going to be this continuation of sort of the arms race of, okay, here's a new technology. It can be used for good things or bad things. And the bad guys are going to grab it. That's guaranteed every single time. They're going to try, and already have for things like social engineering, phishing emails, texts, whatever it might be. And so it's incumbent on defenders to, even though it is a confusing landscape, start to think about how can you utilize this technology to counter what will likely be improved capability on the side of the bad guy.
How should security teams be thinking about the skills they need in-house to work with this technology?
That's a great question. This is not my phrase. I heard it on. I know I heard it on Pivot Podcast. I've heard it a couple of other places, so I can't attribute it properly. But it's not that AI will take your job. It's that someone who understands AI will take your job. It's not dissimilar than if you were an accountant in the 80s, and there's the accountant that had their, adding machine and their pencil and paper, and the one that knew how to use a spreadsheet on a PC. There's direct analogs there. And so if you're a security practitioner thinking about this, I would suggest getting curious. And I would suggest don't sit there and expect your management, your company, whatever, to own the progress of your career. You have to take agency. It's your responsibility. So go get curious about the technology. Go understand what it does. See if there are innovative ways you can apply it in your environment. If there are, do go to vendors that have AI in their tools and understand how it's applied, and see if you can figure out, what do you need to know and understand to make the most use of it? You have to go after that stuff on your own, and you should, because I'll tell you right now, in a year you're interviewing for a job, someone's going to ask you, like, have you utilized AI in some certain capacity for your work? And if you haven't, you don't understand how it applies or how it doesn't apply, you're going to not be in the best of positions versus someone who says, oh yeah, I experimented with it this way, I used it at my prior job to do this. Get curious, own the outcome, go figure things out, because there's tons of resources and ability to play with things. There's a lot you can do on your own to really educate yourself.
Excellent. So final question, I'd love to know what Expel has been up to for the past year, any updates you can share?
Yeah. So when we talk about our job, which is to really lessen the impact of trying to have enough security talent to keep up with this dynamic environment in terms of defending yourself, we think about three things changing. One is the attack surface, the thing that you're protecting, right? Like a simple example, every year at reInvent, Amazon changes how AWS behaves, right? So that's always going on. The next is the attacker. They're always changing. We just talked a little bit about that. The third is the products and technologies you use to protect yourself are changing. And so you have to keep up with that. So our job is to stay in front of as much of those three as we possibly can to add value to our customers. We're always trying to stay up with attack surface. So example, we just released, and I think are the only MDR that supports Oracle Cloud, because we do have customers moving into that environment. I think we are going to continue to see a lot more cloud competition. That's also going to happen internationally. So as we have customers move to a different vendor, different attack surface, we have to move with them. We also think about attack surfaces like email. I know email, it's like 2025, boring. Well, okay, except most common communications capability in place across organizations worldwide, period. It's ubiquitous. And two, we do see a lot of innovation in the space, meaning new products to help customers solve problems better. Example, companies and products like Abnormal or Sublime, and we're seeing our customers adopt those. And so we've announced MDR for email because there's a lot of new stuff that's happening. We've covered a lot of email assets before, but now that attack surface is evolving. And so we want to make sure that as customers make those investments, they can rely on us to operationalize them, get them out, and get the value out of them, and then help the customer protect themselves using those technologies that they've spent money on. So a lot of keeping up with the attack surface, evolutions in the space, and then there's the ever-present keep up with the bad guy, but that's always changing every single year. So those are a couple things that we're pretty excited about this year.
So, well, Dave, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Great, thanks for having me.
And thank you so much for watching ISMG. I'm Anna Delaney.